When I was a little kid, I did something bad and I lied about it and I got in a lot of trouble.
Welcome back to our She's Homemade podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Brooke.
I'm Andrea.
And today we'll be talking about kind of an interesting topic. We're going to take it a couple ways.
Yeah.
But mainly just honesty in business and why we think it's the best policy.
Honesty is the best policy. Yeah, I think that, honesty in business, and in life, it's a value that some people hold and some people don't. And business can get a little wishy-washy and it can get a little bit hard to navigate honesty.
And also navigate other people and other businesses, right?
Yes. So, I think that, I am obviously advocating for honesty in business. And when you're in sales and when you're in our types of industries, sometimes the line can be blurred on what should be communicated or how it should be communicated or, what people need to know or don't need to know. So, and for me, I was on a team before that sometimes liked to blur the lines.
Yeah.
And I didn't agree with it, or I just found that no matter what, honesty was gonna win.
Yeah.
Like,
and
it sounds so obvious.
I think that's a differentiating factor between like a successful business and not, is honestly like, I said honestly, the difference in like values that either like a company holds or, and even think like big box companies, like they, when their value is like customer service and honesty or trust, you're likely going to get like better service, better, like even like I think of like refunds from like big companies or big stores or whatever. But even like I specifically think like small businesses, like everyone runs their business so different. And we deal, even with She's Homemade, with a lot of other like small businesses. And I don't know, like you can tell who runs like a really honest and really good business. And I think for us, like we just wanted to talk about it and even what we've learned along the lines, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. So, when you're starting out and you're believing what everyone says and you're taking it for face value, sometimes you can get steered in wrong directions. But for me, I'll give you an example.
Okay.
When I was a little kid, honesty is one of my values, and it's been a value in my life, my whole life.
Which I think most people
we hope.
We
hope that everyone has the value of honesty in their life. When I was a little kid, I did something bad, and I lied about it, and I got in a lot of trouble. And
are you going to tell us what it is? Or no?
I can't even remember how old I was.
Did you steal from a store?
I stole from a friend.
Okay, this is like, okay. Because I'm like, I feel like every kid goes through like something like this.
But I stole from a friend, and then I got called out by their parents and lied to their parents.
Okay.
So, and not only did I lie, I elaborately lied. That was such an obvious lie. And at the time, I was so stupid. But like
what were you like, though? Like 10?
I must have been.
Yeah.
I can't even remember how old I was, but I, to this day, very distinctly remember their parents called me and asked me point blank, did I take this?
You were like, nah.
I said no, and that like his cousin came and picked it up from me. It was just like really embarrassingly bad
and
lie.
You remember it to this day, so.
Bad lie.
Yeah.
And I got in so much trouble, and like, not even like you're disciplined. It was like, we're disappointed. This is so wrong. This isn't how you operate. And
from your parents.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And for me, it's just always been something that's stuck in my head.
Yeah.
And I literally try and live my life by it. Like,
that's so crazy.
It's one of those things where it's like, even like, don't lie. That's obvious. But don't stretch the truth either.
Yeah.
And like, always.
And that's where I think a lot of people really make that mistake. And I think in business specifically, and I'll give a little bit of like my personal experience too. I was really young when I started my own business.
Right.
So I was 22 when I got into the mortgage industry. And I was new, and like I always thought of myself as like kind of like savvy, I would say. And just smart, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
and obviously, like when you're young too, you have a bigger head. Like, let's be real.
I've been humbled.
Yeah, I've been humbled slightly. But I think like when I started, I think, and specifically in the mortgage industry, and I mean, I think that this can bleed into something else, but I'll give like more of a specific example. But I used to be not necessarily like scared to tell the truth to clients, but like, for example, I'd get asked for updates, and like if I didn't have an update, I wouldn't tell them.
Right.
Or I wouldn't like respond.
Right.
And I'd just be like, well, I don't have an update. So like, I'm not going to respond saying I don't. So I'll just like wait until tomorrow until I have an update. And I think that like really, like I've really learned over the last couple of years, like if you just can't run your business that way, then people are like, why aren't you responding to me? And even coming on like the other side of things, like now that I've dealt with more businesses, even with She's Homemade.
Yeah.
And even just like with experience and just getting older, like I've dealt with a lot of other services, and I'm like, I will say like the best type of service that I get is somebody that actually just answers you.
Open and honest.
Yeah, open and honest. And like if you screw something up, or if you not just like trying to like not answer the person and fixing it in the background or like whatever. I think just like being like, hey, like even with no update, like, hey, I'm so sorry, I don't have an update.
Exactly.
And I think too, like even taking that even farther back, and this is kind of where I'm at in my business now, is like trying to like just eliminate that even, and it's like being super transparent about timelines.
Yes.
Because I'm like, when I tell somebody like, hey, I'll get back to you soon, like then they're emailing me tomorrow, like the next day.
Give them a time.
And I'm like, I don't have an update for you. Now it's annoying for me to have to respond. So now I'm like, hey, we're not going to hear anything back till Friday. I'm going to send you an email with an update regardless, whether we have one or not. And we can try to make a game plan or like whatever. And I think
that comes with experience.
And again, and like I said, like I was so young, and I think like I've learned a lot of things, but I think that was one of the biggest things that I learned. It's just like being super transparent. And again, like I've made mistakes in business. I think everybody has. Yeah. And even just owning up to those and being like, I'm so sorry. Like I missed this email, or like, I, had something going on in my, like, even just like being so transparent. Like I had something going on in my life. I missed this. I did something a day later than I said I did. Yeah. Or like whatever, you know what I mean? I think, and I don't even deal with that anymore because I'm just so transparent off the start that I don't even have to like backtrack.
Yes, exactly.
And that's what's embarrassing, is like backtracking after you've like said something and then you can't own up to it. And that again goes with timelines. If you're going to tell me like, hey, I can do a 2-day turnaround time, and then it's 2 weeks. Well, if you would have just told me 2 weeks off the start, I would have been like, okay, I'm expecting this. And I think just that transparency is what a lot of like small businesses specifically are missing. Yeah. And I think just trust too, like for me, I work in mortgages. It's very like personal industry.
Right. And real estate.
Real estate is too. Yeah. Like finding somebody, and even for me, like I'm looking at people's like taxes. Right. I'm looking at like I get like a front row seat to their like financial life, which I think a lot of people are becoming more comfortable with now. Mm-hmm. But when I first started, and I think too, like you have to have the confidence to ask, but that's a different thing. Yeah. But yeah, just like it's a very personal industry. So like you have to have that trust from clients. Right. And like trust comes from being honest. Yes. So if you're like wrong about your timelines and then like not answering people for 2 days because, you don't want to give bad news or here and there. Right. Then eventually those people just lose trust in you. Yeah. Right. And I mean, you can't grow a business, but also you can't continue a business. Like your business will literally just take a deep nosedive if that's how you run it.
Yeah, I agree. There's been a couple like either examples or learning points in my life, personal and in business. Totally. Where I've had the option to just be upfront and honest, or either tweak the story or like diminish the story. When I'm not open and honest from the beginning, my stomach goes in knots. Yeah. I don't feel good. I get anxiety. So for me,
I get definitely like, I would say overwhelmed.
Oh,
all of a sudden you're like,
for me, I have learned over the years that it's like, it's easier on my inner peace. It's easier on me, and it's easier on clients and friends and family if you're just honest. It's totally. It sounds like such a basic thing, just be honest, but really
it's not though. Like we were talking about this the other day, like there's a couple businesses even that I've dealt with in the last couple years, or in the last year even, where like I'm like, I don't know, in debunking people, we talk about this all the time. Yeah. Like you trust, and I'm a very and so are you, are the same. We're very trustworthy people, like right off the start.
Until
so when I
you
meet
prove
somebody,
us wrong. Yeah.
I immediately am like, they must run their business well.
I believe you. I believe your word.
And then like after a while, you know, I think like, and again, comes from experience, and I'm still learning this, is learning to like see the red flags and like take a step back, because I find that even like somebody will do something that's like kind of like sketchy, and I'm like, oh, they must have not meant that, or like whatever. And like at the end of the day, like maybe I should feel like that, like give people the benefit of the doubt if I know them.
Right.
But I'm like, when you don't know somebody, like you can get, like I got screwed this year.
Right.
Like,
right.
You know what I mean? By a business, and I was like, anyway, not name dropping. But again, it's like, you know, I kept being like, oh, that's not what she meant, or that's not how I should have taken it, or like whatever. And I just think at the end of the day, like I gave somebody like way too much of the benefit of it.
Yeah. And that's the fine line, right? When we're trying to be open and honest, we're expecting other people to do the same, and it's burning us.
It can burn you. Yeah. And I think like, I don't necessarily want to change that about myself, because I like that, like, I think positively of people and whatever, but also it's like, I do have to take a step back sometimes and be like, okay.
In business
specifically. Yeah. My personal life's different, but I'm like, in business, I'm like, okay, I actually don't know this person.
Yeah.
I don't know their intentions. Mm-hmm. And I think just like protecting myself a little bit more, moving forward from stuff like that. And again, like a lot of it came from like, just like stories that didn't match up, and just like stretching the truth, or like there was no truth in my opinion.
Right.
You know, and I'm like, I just didn't see like the red flags moving forward. And I think, and then I look back to, and I'm like, there's so many people that like run terrible businesses.
I know.
And I'm like, how do people keep going? I genuinely don't understand.
it'll catch up with them.
Yeah, I think eventually you have to crash and burn. Like the way to run a long-term successful business, I think.
If they're lying or hiding things, yes.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying the way to run a long-term business, and like a long-term, or and like a successful long-term business, is being honest with people.
Yeah,
and I think that's even true like when you get so big. And I think of like, I'm not in like sales of a product, but even think like, you know, the companies that give like full refunds, and like they give people a promise and they stick to it. Like I think that those are the businesses that do well now.
Yeah, I do too. I just think that when you're going through life, like again, it's like experience and growth and that kind of stuff that kind of teaches you and it was the same as me, when you're just starting out, you're scared to let people down, or you're scared to give people bad news. But throughout my life, I've done it enough times, and I've done both ways, that I've learned you feel better being honest, and they feel better with you being honest. And that's how you build businesses and relationships and longevity in business.
Yeah. And I think too, and this will bleed into like a lot of small businesses, I think that you have to have the mentality of like live your life in like abundance and run your life that way. Just because if you're looking at like every single transaction, like, I need this in order, you know what I mean? Then like, and if something messes up, but you won't tell, like you kind of have to think too, like, okay, I have to be honest, even if this means like, maybe I'll lose this person as a client.
Right.
But it's better to be like honest and provide that as like a good service.
Yes.
And I've learned that again through just experience. Like I find even, you know, telling people like maybe it's not a good time to buy, or whatever. I feel like that goes a lot longer than being like,
because then you have that client later.
Yeah, exactly. And I think too, like again, it's the trust that comes back, and then people are like, you know, she's actually like looking out for me.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And not just like looking at it as like a transaction all the time too.
Totally.
Like take a step back from your business, you know. And like I said, when I say live in abundance, it's like you don't need every single transaction all the time. Like you have to make sure that you follow your values.
Yeah.
And
if you lose a client because of honesty, then you still won't feel bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it matters. And like, I mean, it's funny because I've been put in certain positions where I've either had to lie, or I've had to say things that I don't believe in, or follow what someone else is saying that I don't believe in. And it gives me such guilt gut, and like such an icky feeling, like such an icky feeling, that when I went out on my own, I just realized that like, no, like I'm not going to operate that way. I have to operate the way that I believe. And
I think too, when you run a small business, like reputation is
exactly. Oh yeah, totally.
You know, and like a big part of your reputation is
being honest.
Being honest and
Sounds
being
so
a good
basic.
person. Yeah, I know. It seems basic. And I mean, I think a lot of people that run their businesses and maybe do white lies here and there, I don't think that they're bad people. I don't think that they're meaning to be. I just think they, again, don't have the experience, or maybe you're just a little nervous, or you're just starting out and you just don't understand. And I think that's why for us, if you're starting a business, or if you're already far into it, try to set that as your main value.
Communication, open communication and honesty is a value in my business and in my life.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel better as a person.
Yeah, 100%. Same.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and I think that that's all for us, right? We just wanted to kind of touch on values in business, and that's the biggest one that we both agree on.
Yes.
Definitely leave in the comments what you think that your main value of your business, whether you're starting out or whether
and do you agree that honesty is a part of business, or disagree? Let us know.
Yeah, and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're on Spotify and Apple as well. And check us out on Instagram. We have a membership.
She's homemade.
Yeah, we'll catch you on the next episode.